The Bharat Shavashram Sangha is something else entirely. A detailed description would take forever, but it did come up with something concise that may put it across. The Bharat Shavashram Sangha looks how St Paul's Cathedral might have looked if Christopher Wren had designed it under the influence of industrial strength hallucinogens. The basement is larger in area than the upper level. Towards the rear there is a tableau surrounded by chrome railings. Krishna and a lady friend stand among the petals of a lotus flower in a dry water feature. The parched pool is ringed by several dancing girls, who are in turn surrounded by 4 peacocks and 4 elephants. The latter are all the same size. So are they midget elephants or giant peacocks? Moving on, we find Krishna again. This time he is dancing on the middle head of a 5-headed king cobra, flanked by 2 women who are either emerging from or being swallowed by a pair of snakes. The figure has 4 arms. One holds a blood-soaked blade, another holds a freshly severed head, and a third hand holds a bowl under the head to catch the blood gushing out of the neck. If India has taught me anything, it's don't dismiss something just because it appears insane.
That's the Mandir of Madness by Phil Enfield.
I have a theory that postulates the following. If I were to walk along any street chosen at random in any Indian town or city, I will, quite quickly, find something interesting or fascinating enough in some way or other to warrant a photograph, or 100. Not a single object or person, something extensive. I tested the theory in Tarapith. It resulted in the discovery of the Bharat Shavashram Sangha. I know. Spoiler. Sorry. Tarapith, 30th of January 2019. In Taramatara, we went up the road and turned right, looking for cremation grounds and graveyards. In this instance, we turned left, and for a while I feared my theory was going to fail me. After a few hundred metres of mundane residential architecture, we come to a large open plot of land containing what I assume is some kind of temple. Access to the temple is via a riotously ornate gatehouse. It is predominantly peach-coloured. It is not a construction that defies description, but it does make the task of doing so long-winded and tortuously tedious, which is why you have the image here. Above the gates are the words Bharat Shavashram Sangha, which I assume is the name of the temple. Once through the gate, we find ourselves on a wide blocked paved path that runs between metal railings painted peach and purple. To light the way at night, they have dozens of small lamps on spiral candy-striped poles. This lurid lane brings us to the Bharat Shavashram Sangha temple, if a temple it is. The Bharat Shavashram Sangha is something else entirely, and the gaudy gatehouse is tame by comparison. Again, a detailed description would take forever, and again you have the images. But it did come up with something concise that may put it across. The Bharat Shavashram Sangha looks how St Paul's Cathedral might have looked if Christopher Wren had designed it under the influence of industrial strength hallucinogens. The dome is segmented, and the segments are painted alternately peach and blue. It is surmounted by a spire resembling a stack of iced gems. This is an iced gem. Beneath the dome, the front of the building is decorated with a bewildering variety of patterns and bold colours. The colours are so deep they border on sickly. There are gods, oms, demon faces, elephants holding bead necklaces in their extended trunks, and so much more. Beneath all this, 2 life-sized lions, each with one paw raised, flank a chariot pulled by 3 horses and driven by Lord Shiva. At least I think it's Lord Shiva. The chariot has a passenger who is modelled drawing an arrow from a quiver. Access to the temple is via a flight of steps to the side and rear of the chariot ensemble. The interior is open plan. Peach-coloured columns rise from a polished stone floor to support the roof. In the corners on either side of the entrance, stairs descend in a wide arc to a basement level. Next to the stairwells and facing each other across the building are 2 shrines. Well, I assume they're shrines. It's hard to tell here. The one on the left-hand side consists of a three-tiered dais with columns supporting a top section. The whole thing has been constructed from transparent plastic bottles and goblets. Seated inside is the effigy of a robed man with long hair sitting cross-legged. Is he a guru, a saint, a sinner? Probably not the last one, but there's no clues. The one on the right is similar, but with 6 columns of mixed transparent red, purple and orange bottles, and contains Shiva, flanked by 2 trishul, tridents, a small marble Nandi, the bull, Shiva's consort, and a small figure standing over a prone form with 1 foot on their chest. The figure has 4 arms. One holds a blood-soaked blade, another holds a freshly severed head, and a third hand holds a bowl under the head to catch the blood gushing out of the neck. However, any dark and sinister meaning this is supposed to convey has been utterly detracted by the small bracelet of pink and pearl plastic beads hung around their neck. It's the kind of cheap tat you might find in a 5-year-old girl's party bag. At the very end of the building, a narrow room beyond a locked gate appears to be another shrine dedicated to the man with the long curly hair. There is some information on a plaque, but it's not in English. So we are still clueless. Other than the shrines, the ground floor is empty. Backtracking to check out the basement, I glance at the guru, or whoever he is, in his plastic bottle shrine. I thought he seemed somehow familiar, and now it clicks. He bears a striking resemblance to J.S. Bach. Of course it can't be. But given the level of weirdness here, would it be so surprising? The only place like this I've seen before is the Cao Dai Temple outside Saigon, and the Cao Dai worship, amongst others, Mark Twain. So, is the temple dedicated to Johann Sebastian Bach so unlikely? If India has taught me anything, it's don't dismiss something just because it appears insane. The stairs down to the basement sweep around in a wide arc. Even that seems odd, unnecessarily grand in a way. But, if I thought what we'd seen of this place so far was weird, it is nothing compared to the basement. Whoever was responsible for the basement scoffed the remainder of Christopher Wren's acid, followed by anything else they could get their hands on. The basement is larger in area than the upper level. Towards the rear there is a tableau surrounded by chrome railings. Krishna and a lady friend stand among the petals of a lotus flower in a dry water feature. The parched pool is ringed by several dancing girls, who are in turn surrounded by 4 peacocks and 4 elephants. The latter are all the same size. So are they midget elephants or giant peacocks? In a glass case to the rear of this display sits another sculpture of J.S. Bach. But the real weirdness is on the walls. The entire perimeter of this space is decorated with coloured reliefs depicting, well, Brahma only knows. It was, literally, wall-to-wall weird, and in many cases downright disturbing. Here is a little selection, and just so you know, Krishna is a guess, but on the whole I don't think it matters. A topless female demon with enormous eye teeth, amongst other large aspects, is depicted falling back with Krishna, maybe, holding her waist. Krishna stares intently at one of the demon's nipples, and it looks every bit like he's going to go for it. Moving on, we find Krishna again. This time he is dancing on the middle head of a 5-headed king cobra, flanked by 2 women who are either emerging from or being swallowed by a pair of snakes. A green-skinned figure with 4 arms is up to his waist in a large fish. Krishna, possibly, holding an elephant by its trunk and throwing it over his head. What looks to me like a zombie Madonna. The singer, that is, not Jesus' mum. She is sitting in a chariot holding a large chocolate wafer. Another 4-armed figure. This one has a lion's head. He's seated with a man lying across his lap, a man he has just disemboweled, and looks to be celebrating it. Krishna, fairly sure, walking into the mouth of a pelican. People apparently escaping from a crocodile's jaws. What I assume to be a goddess sitting on the edge of an ornate floating 4-poster bed. Next to the bed is a guy down on one knee in the water. The goddess is about to clout him on the head with a mace, and she is holding his tongue with her left hand. He clearly needs to work on his game. If you're a fan of the League of Gentlemen, Papa Lazarus is here too. He's standing on Krishna. He gets about, doesn't he, if it is him, holding his blood-soaked hands in the air and wearing a garland of severed heads. A hungry dog is using Krishna as a launch pad in an attempt to steal one of the heads for a tasty snack. And there were more, all very surreal and utterly bizarre. But I saved my favourite to last. A topless woman, wearing a garland of skulls, dances on a lotus flower. On either side of her, two almost identical ladies stand on floating leaves. In her right hand, Skull Lady is holding a sizable hooked blade, and in her left hand, her own freshly self-severed head. 3 spurts of blood issue from the stump of her neck. 2 of them end up in the mouths of the leaf ladies, and the third drops into the mouth of her own severed head. To be clear, she has cut off her own head and is catching the blood spurting from her neck in her mouth, or her former mouth. I was at the time, and always will be, utterly clueless. Hinduism is packed with weird and wonderful beings, like the deity that has 20 heads or more jutting out on either side of their neck. Male heads, female heads, elephant heads, some spewing fire from their mouths. But I say, 20 mixed gender and species fire-breathing heads? Big deal. Cut one of them off and using its eyesight catch the fountain of your own blood in its mouth. Then I'll be impressed. Postscript. J.S. Bach is actually a man titled Swami Pranavananda, founder of the Bharat Sevashram Sangha, a charitable organisation, in 1917. They have done and still do a lot of good work, helping out in disasters, assisting the poor and destitute, and providing health care. The building we visited was an ashram, which makes as much sense as everything else, i.e. none. But the place was deserted. Where were Bach's disciples? And what, in the name of H.R. Geiger, was going on in that bloody basement? At the Mandir of Madness was written and read by Phil Wingfield. Ashrams are places of practice or learning and are usually occupied by members of the founding sect or organisation. But the place was deserted. Where were Bach's disciples?
And what, in the name of H.R. Geiger, was going on in that bloody basement? That's the Mandir of Madness was written and read by Phil Wingfield.